Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ask a Muso podcast, brought to you by Beach Services. I'm going a little bit more local today and heading just a little bit further south down the pond to a drummer I came into contact with through the digital sphere, through social media, who essentially had a snare sound that I really liked, and I felt like it was my duty to tell him. I won't hold you up any longer. Luke, give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, mate. I know you're more than just a good snare sound, so give us an introduction and kick us off.
Oh, thanks, Bailey. Well, thanks for having me. First off, it's quite an honour. I've never done a podcast before, so well, I'm Luke. I'm 25. I've played drums now for it'd be going on 15 years now, easily. Completely self-taught. I actually discovered my love for drums on Guitar Hero, back on the old PS2. So that's kind of how I came about it. Yeah, grew up on the Gold Coast. Played local bands here on the coast and in Brisbane as well. I was lucky enough also to be signed by Soul Tone Cymbals in 2019 as well, which was really good. And yeah, just been playing local scene for the last 5-10 years here on the coast.
Awesome. So was it always drums for you? Was that always what it was? Like, I suppose you didn't necessarily have the plan. You just had Guitar Hero to inspire you. I can attest to having that enjoyment as well. But was it always going to be drums, or did it sort of just fall into it?
Well, I come from a family of guitarists. So the family side in Melbourne were all guitarists. Two of my cousins in Melbourne are metal guitarists. My brother is a guitarist. My dad's a guitarist. And yeah, Dad did try and force me to play the guitar when I was young, and I could not get the grips of how to play. Like, I couldn't move my fingers. So I tried bass guitar, which was a little bit better. I was okay bassist. I could play basic stuff. But just one day in music class in primary school, every time we'd pass the instruments around the circle, every time the drum came up, I just wanted that one. And then got Guitar Hero a couple of years later, and it just went from there, and I just felt I had it, and it just built from there, and here we are today.
What was that sort of like growing up in a musical household? Was it sort of like were they gigging, or was your dad say gigging, or was it just like let's sit around and have a laugh and dinner on a few sherbets, we got the guitar out?
Yeah, sort of. When Dad played in bands when I was a kid, it was kind of before my time. He'd kind of given it all up by that time, because he grew up in Melbourne, playing in bands in Melbourne. And but no, Dad most nights after dinner would always have the guitar out while we're watching TV or doing something like that. He'd always have the guitar out, and then my brother would join in because he could play guitar as well. But I always felt a bit left out because I just could not get to grips with it for the life of me. So obviously I don't see my family much in Melbourne, but my cousin's parents, so my auntie and uncle, they both were in quite a successful band in Melbourne back in the 80s and 90s. They obviously never grew to be huge, but in Melbourne they were actually quite well known. They were in a band called Hang Glider Lounge back in, I think it might have been the early 90s. And my dad's also an audio engineer, so he actually mixed and mastered and recorded a lot of their stuff anyway. So, and then Dad was also in another little band in Melbourne too throughout the early 90s as well, which he had fun with. He had the dirty looking mullet and similar moustache to what I've got now and stuff like that. But it was really cool. Yeah, pretty big music background in my family, just not percussion wise.
No, and I suppose, as you say, touching on the mustache, you were either destined to be leading senior constable or something in the 70s, 80s, 90s music scene. So you just teetered to the ladder, so that's fine. That's all good. Everyone finds their niche. For me, I always thought, I play drums. I can never play by myself. I'm gonna need to find a motley crew. Were you always on the lookout in early high school and all that to try and find someone who wanted to have someone hit the tubs?
Believe it or not, no. I've always been big on especially when I first started drumming, I actually didn't want anyone to know I could play drums. I wanted to kind of keep it this weird little secret that I had this weird, because I grew up, through my high school, drumming was never a first priority for me. It was my footy, AFL. So I grew up in a massive AFL family, being a lot of the families from Melbourne. I grew up in a massive AFL family. I wanted to be drafted. So drumming was kind of like this side thing for me, so I didn't really tell anyone about it. But when I really started getting into my drumming and it was kind of taking over footy, I was really big on the YouTube stuff. So I started not the current channel I have now, but an old channel that I've now deleted because it was crap. I started that, and I was never looking for bands. I was never interested in playing bands. I kind of just wanted to film covers because that's what I really enjoyed. But my mate took me to a gig at a bar called the Miami Shark Bar down in Miami on the coast. It's not here anymore, and he took me to a gig there, and I watched the drummer who I actually kind of know of. He teaches at the Wright Music School on the Gold Coast. And I watched him play, and from that day onwards, this would have been just after high school when I finished in 2015, I was like, I want to play in bands. That's what I want to do. And now I started straight away, Facebook, all your channels that you go through to find bands. Yep, straight away. And I was in my first band, probably 2017 would have been my first band.
Tell me about your current band and sort of go into what you've sort of been doing with them. I came into contact with you when you were touring, and you actually played at a local watering hole of mine that's unfortunately closed down recently. But you were at 11 Dive Bar and stuff like that, just on the cusp of me figuring out what you were doing. So tell me about the band and tell me about what you've been going on and doing with those guys.
So this band, it's a really, really interesting story actually. So Among the Rule, and they're Brizzy based. They've been around for actually quite a few years, and they've gone through drummer after drummer after drummer. Anyway, I came into contact with them. So Paddy Creamer, who is the front man, so he plays rhythm guitar and is the vocalist. I went to primary school with him, and his mum was my music teacher for about 10 years. So this is how we came into contact. It was really funny. So I'd never played in a metal band. So I grew up loving metal music, but I never thought I was good enough to play it. I wasn't that strong on double kicks when I was growing up. I was always a single kick player, but over the last few years, I'd really worked on it and improved on it. And I thought, bugger it, I'll give it a go. Because their music, it's quite complicated. It's not, it's not standard stuff. There's fast, tricky, linear kind of stuff going on a lot of the time. And so I thought, bugger it, I'll go down. And yeah, it was actually a really good fit. Like, they played at backing tracks and click tracks, so it's all very professional. And anyway, so I joined the band as they were releasing new music. So they just recorded an album, which has now been kind of condensed down to an EP and hasn't been fully released yet. But they originally wanted me just to record a couple of music videos that have now just been released. So the first song was a single called The Road, and we shot that. We're actually meant to shoot it mid-July in 2021, but that's when Queensland went into their second lockdown for COVID on the day of
the shoot.
Yeah, so that was cancelled. It was pushed 2 weeks, and then literally the day of, the minute lockdown ended, I was straight up to Brisbane in the car. Actually, while lockdown was still happening, it was ending at about 4 p.m. I was in the car on my way up to Brisbane to shoot at this little yoga studio where we actually shot the live kind of performance part of the music video. So it kind of grew from there. I shot the 2 music videos with them. I was jamming with them a bit. And then they were put on to a big festival called Wallapalooza, which was at Mudgebar Showgrounds, which was a massive thing. There was I can't remember the bands that played.
I'll put up the poster next to your face so that it can help jog the memory.
Yeah, sorry, so much has happened since then. I cannot remember off the top of my head, but the poster will be there. It'll tell you who. There were a couple of big headlines, and so we ended up getting put on that, and they said to me, "Oh, well, we need a drummer. Do you want to play this festival with us?" I was like, "Hell yeah! It's massive showgrounds. Why not?" 100%. So that was pushed back twice due to COVID and weather. So it was meant to be in November of 2021, but they pushed it to February 2022, and then it came to February, end of February last year, about this time last year, and the Gold Coast and Brisbane, and I think even the sunny coast might have had a bit too. We had flooding rain. It just flooded everything. It just poured for about 2 weeks straight. Canned it again, so it was moved to May of 2022, and it was great. We felt like we really impressed. We had a lot of new fans messaging just going, "You were my favourite new act of the day." It was really good because we got really lucky. One of the bands on the main stage, which is the really big stadium-sized stage, pulled out because they all had COVID, and we got to go bumped up onto the main stage, which was just really lucky. And then we got to play our second set on the second stage as well. So we ended up playing 2 sets for the day. So I was wrecked by the end of it. And it was my first show with them too. And yeah, it was really good success. It was really fun. And then we followed up on that in June and July of last year with a bit of a Southeast Queensland tour. It was only 3 shows, and it was for that first single. And yeah, one of them was at 11 Dive Bar on the sunny coast, which is your local area. And I loved that venue. What was his name? Happy? Crumpy. His name. He had a really nice, was a pearl crystal beat.
The red acrylic. Very rare to get something like that as a house kit.
It was my favourite kit of the whole tour. It was so nice. It was such a good venue. It was really sad to see it shut down, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's crazy to see how things got pushed back for your first show in the beginning. like I suppose it gave you actually a chance to really hone your craft as a band, like without essentially any. Well, you had to, I guess. Like it was like, well, I suppose we're just going to keep rehearsing because it keeps getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. So you end up having an opportunity to, I suppose, hone your craft together and get even tighter, which helped the overall process when you did eventually get to play on the big boy stage, which was obviously a complete surprise.
Yeah, massive surprise. And it was, I'll be honest with you, it was utterly terrifying. It was kind of the beginning of the day, but there was still a decent crowd in for that first set on that main stage, and I was absolutely terrified. First time using click and backing tracks, big stage. Like in metal music, the driving force behind any metal band is obviously the bass guitar, but it's your double kicks. And I had to have my double kick spot on, and that's really hard when your legs are shaking like crazy. But no, it was really good, and it was so fun, and I'm hoping we're on it again. I think it's going to be next year. I'm hoping we're on it again. It'd be so fun.
Oh, well, that's super exciting. So do you guys have anything else that you guys sort of working on at the moment, like you said about the EP and stuff like that? You got other things this year?
Two of the boys, so Paddy and our lead guitarist Bailey, they headed overseas end of last year to see family because they hadn't seen family for 3 odd years because of COVID. So after the tour, we played a little festival called Vamped Up, which was at the Back Room in Logan, or in kind of South Brisbane, Mount Gravatt area. That was August last year, and then we kind of had a break because the boys went overseas for a couple. I think Paddy went over there for about 6 weeks or something, and then we kind of had Christmas and stuff. So nothing's really happened yet this year. But myself and Bailey are actually talking today. We're jumping in the studio. I think it's first week of March. We're going to be starting to record some new demos, ready for some new music. Even though we've still got new music we haven't released yet, we're still writing more. So yeah, I think the beginning of this year is going to be a lot more writing, and then hopefully second half of the year will be lots more shows, which will be good.
Awesome. No, I'm looking forward to that. That sounds good. And if there's anything up our way or even in the northern Brisbane area, I'll be keen to be there for sure because it seems like quite a good show, and also it's going to be quite the well rehearsed show, which is nice, especially when there's more music and more things being written.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Well, to take you back to I suppose where your humble beginnings were, the social media side of things. When did you sort of, I suppose, we had our options taken away in regards to being able to play shows for a while, which we all know, but when did you sort of really sort of get a bit of enjoyment? Well, I'm assuming there's enjoyment out of leaning into that social media side of drumming. Like I have had a love-hate relationship with it at times and stuff like that, but what are your sort of thoughts on the whole social media drummer thing and how you sort of market yourself with the covers and just having a social media presence as someone that plays?
Yeah, great question. And the love-hate relationship, that is the most relatable thing I think I've ever heard in my entire life. It is definitely a love-hate thing. When I really decided to go like, all right, I want to drum for the rest of my life. I don't want a 9-to-5 job. I hate that. I want to be a drummer for the rest of my life. Well, probably would have been the end of 2020, bad breakup with the ex-missus. I'm like, all right, bugger it, I'm going. Let's do it. And I started with the social media, and I guess the number one thing you got to remember with the social media side is you got to be yourself. If you're starting to compare yourself on social media, so everyone's covering this song, and you've got to do it and you can't figure it out, that's the biggest mistake. Cover what you want. If you're covering songs from the 60s, do it. If you're covering deathcore but no one else's, do it anyway. If that's you, do it. And like for me, I'm pretty lucky. I grew up playing pop, punk, rock, quite electronic stuff. So I can incorporate, and now I'm more of a metal drummer, I can kind of incorporate the two, and that's what I do. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people go, he's playing too much in an electronic song when I'm incorporating kind of metal styles into it, but some people love it. You see lots of drummers do that these days, and you just got to be yourself. That's the number one thing I reckon. If you start trying to do what other people are trying to do, you're going to slip away.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that mentality. Authenticity is a big thing. It's a big theme of sort of how I try and administer things. It's a big theme of how I do things outwardly on a musical level, as well as just through the pod. It's something that I've actually come to have quite a organic connection with actually the guests that I've had on the pod. We all sort of eventually get to how much we enjoy collaboration, how much we enjoy the authenticity, and how important we see the authenticity of being yourself, and not trying to just do what everyone else is doing or or not trying to be what someone else is. And I think that's super important in getting shifting the tide of the love-hate relationship to not care about things that are gonna rack you off, because essentially someone's seen through potential insecurity of, oh, you look like you're trying to be that guy, and you're like, you know what, I actually was trying to be that guy. That's on me. I'll wear that,
100%. Like, he's saying that, and unfortunately it's something I do see quite a lot. Like, I look up to guys like Matt Maguire, Luke Holland, just to name a couple of really popular guys. I'll name those two because a lot of drummers on here will know who they are. Matt Maguire, Luke Holland. I see a lot of people trying to be like them way too much, and it's not good. Try to be yourself as much as you can. There's nothing wrong with taking things from them and making your own. That's what I do. I love Matt's drumming. Matt is probably my number one, right? A lot of other drummers on here will probably be the same. I take ideas of his, but I make them my own. I don't copy them right to the letter. I'll learn it, and then I'll make it my own. I'll use it in my way, how I drum.
Absolutely. And in the scheme of things, even if you wanted to really try and harness that, from the outer perspective, everyone's still going to see that it's Luke's version. Like, they're still going to see that it's your version of it. And I think the opportunity to show an audience on social media, especially where it can be polarizing, to show them this is what my adaptation of something is, or this is me doing something that I enjoy. People are able to actually see the enjoyment, or see, I really like this bit, and watching yourself back and watching that talk you put up, or watching that reel you put up, and going, hang on, the fill's coming, hang on, the fill's coming. That's the fill. Did you like it? Those sorts of things. I imagine you watching those things back, and the things you put online and the snippets you put online. I imagine you watching those back going, yeah, that was a good bit. I'm going to put that bit in. Because I do the same thing, and I look back at it and I go, yeah, that wasn't too bad, yeah. And you got to have those little wins, because in the scheme of things, if you're not putting out something that even you enjoy, what hope in Christ have you got someone else having a good time?
Yeah, exactly right. 100% right.
So with the social media content stuff, is there sort of an ambition there, or are you just sort of doing that and doing the live stuff and just sort of just doing it all because you want to do it all, or is there sort of an ambition behind that?
Yeah, that changes a lot. Pretty much, I want to do it all. Obviously the social media stuff kind of dies down when you're playing, when you're constantly rehearsing or touring or playing shows. It's hard. And like, the ultimate goal for me as a drummer is, it's not fame or anything like that. It's just to be able to do it and live comfortably. Like, you want it. It's not all about the money, but then sometimes it kind of is, in a way. Sometimes. Drumming for me will never be about the money entirely. It's always about fun. But I do want to do it as a career. 100%.
And measuring that line of I want to. I was having a chat with a good friend of mine who's like, my goal was, you can play music for a living. That's, if you play guitar and sing and stuff, that can be quite achievable. You can play, Stacey's mum and Kaysan, 17 nights a week if it comes to it. And if that gets you money, then you can definitely do that. But by the same token, you can also go, I want to play what I enjoy, and I want to not have to look somewhere else for the next paycheck. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're the biggest thing since sliced bread, but I remember seeing a comedian whose name escapes me now do a good bit on, he just riffed on the idea that how good is it to be Coldplay's bass player?
Because that dude is rich as shit and no one knows who the fuck he is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with pretty much the entire Coldplay band, apart from, what's his name, the lead singer. I can't remember the lead singer's name off the top of my head. Never mind the rest of the band. And you're exactly right. That's kind of where I'm at. Look, fame can be nice, but it's not all about that. It's not all about the money. And yeah, I just do it to have fun, but it also is a career goal. But when it comes to like, what do I prefer, or what do you, at the end of the day, I find myself that with the bands I'm in, there are long periods of like not playing shows. Like, I haven't been with Among the Ruin in a rehearsal room with them for probably 3 or 4 months. So that's when you turn to your social media, because we have that. Like, back in the day, you didn't have that, but it's so accessible now. Like, I've in this new place, where I've just moved into this new place, I'm still setting it up. I've got a full recording studio in there, so I can do covers now that are really, I got more mics, big interface, and I'm setting it all up, and I can, you can kind of build yourself. Look, and I'll go back to the two guys again, Luke Holland and Matt Maguire. How do you think Matt's playing for the Chainsmokers and Luke's playing for Falling in Reverse? It's from their YouTube channels. And I was speaking to Troy Wright, who played for the Amity Affliction, Pliny, bands like that. He said all his opportunities, including the Amity Affliction, came from his YouTube channel. So that is exactly why I'm so big. When Troy told me that flipped a switch in my head too. Every opportunity has come from YouTube. Even if it's not making money, if you're busting your ass in there, I'm in there practicing. I practice 20, 30 hours a week on the drums, plus filming on top of that. It's almost my full-time job. I don't make a cent. But the end goal is that someone will see it eventually. If you're putting out that much content, make sure it's good quality. Don't drop the quality. Don't just post anything. Make sure it's good quality, so you work hard. Your opportunities will come the harder you work.
Well, I actually had that exact same, very similar thing to what Troy told you. Season one, I had Dan Kirby on the pod, and he talked about he was at a time where he went, I'm going to put some money into a video or videos, content, into something that I go, hey, this is what I look like. And it's just, I'm handing you something now that is a tangible product that it's my EPK, it's my resume, it's whatever the musical equivalent is to demonstrate what I do, how I do it, the quality I'm capable of producing. And there you go, you can have that. And that helped him.
Exactly right. And that's another thing Troy said, because Troy, with his students, Troy encourages young students of my age, because believe it or not, playing 15 years, I still take lessons, because why not? It makes you a better player. And what Troy encourages me to do, he said, film covers at the music school, because your entire YouTube channel, and film at home, your YouTube channel is basically your digital resume. For anyone, any band, any big band, because if you have any big bands or big acts approach you, the first thing they're going to know, show me demos of you playing. And there you go. You've got an entire YouTube channel to show off. Go, here you go. Here's videos of me playing live, in a studio, doing this, doing that. There you go. And
in the scheme of things, as much as you talked about, making sure the quality is at a level that is admirable to someone who may be looking, still having the sheer quantity of the quality, it doesn't happen overnight. But having at your stage, having the quantity as well, it's like, I'm gonna just let you have a go. Here's a link. I'm gonna just let you just go through it, sort of thing, and just see what happens. And you're right, the opportunities that they do come through those mediums, because people do look for people through those mediums. That is definitely the case.
100%. And you just let them go. So let me know what you think of me, because this is me. This is me. And you're like, when it comes to the quality, like for me personally, I'm still not happy with the quality of my covers. I think, like, I am happy, but I'm not. I think it could be better. And it's a thing. And you're exactly right. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's something you got to work at, because you don't get anywhere in life without hard work. And if you work your ass off in the studio, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, filming quality content and putting it out there, don't be afraid of what people think. You're always going to have people not liking you. And sometimes that can be a good thing. It means you're doing something right. It means you're doing something different.
If you're not getting complaints, or you're not getting people going, oh, he's a bloody, you're too vanilla, that you're not even making an impact.
No, exactly right. So you just got to stick with it. You got to trust in the process, and just keep, even if sometimes you got to spend money to make money. You'll spend a hell of a lot of money for your studio and you won't see money for years, but eventually, you'll get rewarded with some good gigs. I have so far, like Wallapalooza, Among the Ruin, great bunch of boys, great band. They're really trying to go places, which is good. We've all got the same goal in mind, and it can be tough. In my previous experiences with bands, it can be hard to find 3 or 4 other people with the same kind of goals as you. Because a lot of people that play in bands, not everyone, but some people just do it for fun. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. Everyone does it for fun. I do it for fun. But there is that behind it as well. People that want to make it a career, sometimes you do have to take it a little bit more seriously. And the boys in Among the Ruin, I'm lucky to have found those guys, because they all have the same goal in mind, which is great.
Yeah, and in the scheme of things, you can't fake intent and attitude, and eventually it comes to a head. It's clear that we aren't the same. You are interested in the piss that comes at the end. You're happy to just sell out your local watering hole, and because you don't really feel like driving to gigs, and all of those things can be fine, but eventually it does come to a point, and sometimes it's a bit frustrating when it doesn't come as soon as you wish, because you invested time. But I see in you a lot of objective thinking and maturity to the idea that, I feel like this isn't going to be the last time. Like, there may not be the last time that someone I think is totally in it the same as me, and they're going to inform me that that's not the case. But by the same time, you find something like Among the Ruin where you actually do have that.
Yeah, and it's a really rewarding experience because all the work you've put in. And like, I'm not just talking about filming. I'm talking about most of the time I'm in that studio, I'm practicing. I'm not filming. And it just really makes you like, you finally connected with artists that have put in the same work as you into their craft, Because I've unfortunately, and I'm not going to name anyone or anything like that, but I have rocked up to rehearsals where, they don't care. They're just there for, no reason, just for a bit of fun. And you're like, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, this is where if you're a more serious musician, you've got to be picky sometimes. If it's not working for you, you've just got to say it,
Absolutely, and by the same token, if they want to do that, and then that's their way of doing things, there's sort of an onus on them to say, oh, this is what it is for me. I see that you take this very seriously, whatever, and from there, I refer back to when I was taught in primary school, which was practice is for you to learn your parts, and rehearsal is for you to learn everyone else's, and you can tell straight away when you have a rehearsal situation where that's not the case, and the inverse is true, and it's not sustainable.
No, it's not, and there's no point in hanging around if it's not for you because you're just wasting your time, really. And you could be out there finding an act that's more suited to you who have similar goals. That's the thing when you're joining a band. That's the one piece of advice. If anyone who's new watching this and is looking to join a band for the first time, because I see the posts in Gold Coast and Brisbane Musicians Network all the time, first time looking for a band, who's out there, make sure, ask them, don't be afraid to ask this too, make sure they have the same goals in mind as you or the same ideas as you towards what they're working towards. If it's, oh yeah, I'm just here for a bit of fun,
I'm keen to jam. I'm keen to jam and see what happens.
Yeah. That's fine. Don't shoot them down for that because that's how they are. That's fine. But if that's not you, you just got to tell them it's not for me.
That's a very valuable piece of advice. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I've learned over the years because that's something I haven't done in the past.
Unlike a lot of art and just unlike a lot of things in general, you don't actually deal with 4 people or 3 people, whatever, quite like you do in a band where there's an expectation that we're all doing the same thing at the same time for 45, an hour and a half, but then that we all have that same cohesive nature in the bits that aren't the 45-hour set. They're the bits around the outside because that has to count. That really has to count.
Oh, that is almost as important as being on stage, isn't it? Like how you are off stage as well is a whole nother thing. You've got to gel off stage as well. And you're 100%, you said that better than what I could say. 100% right. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm sure that everyone that has worked with you will attest that you're quite a good hang, and that's part of the reason that was attractive to me to get you on the pod, because I was like, I knew a little bit, and I wanted to know a little more. So make sure you tell all the people where can they find you, all the tags, all the handles, throw it at me.
Well, Instagram's probably my main one, so that's just Luke Conder Drums, all lowercase, all one together. YouTube is exactly the same, except just split them up, so Luke Conder Drums.
Love that. Well, I appreciate you having a chat with me today, Luke. It was bloody awesome, and I look forward to seeing what you've got going on and following your stuff. And you always feel welcome to give me a shout if you want to do anything drum collaboration-wise, because as much as we don't play tuned instruments, I'm always keen for a collaboration. I'm always keen for a drum off. And, let's be honest, Gold Coast's not that far away.
No, it's not. No, we'll absolutely have to do something like that. I've been keen. It's a plan I have for my channel, so it is something I want to do. So, yeah, 100%. Well, thanks for having me, mate. It was an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Well, let's tee things up for sure, and let's look forward to what 2023 has to offer.
Sounds good, mate. Thank you.
Well, that's another episode of the Ask Muso podcast. Slam dunk in the can, and what a champion on the other end of the line. So, as always, 9 a.m. Tuesdays, YouTube, you know the drill, and make sure that you catch up on all the other episodes. We've done some absolute pearlers this season, and I'm looking forward to continuing this trend on. So, 9 a.m. Tuesday, hit the bell, hit the subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you later.